Hi, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Sidelines 100 and beyond, a celebration of the 100th anniversary of Sidelines. Give it up for 100 years of student media. That's very exciting. This is a very exciting thing, guys. To have lasted 100 years is no small accomplishment. That's 100 years of students coming to campus, of raising their hand and saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to be involved. I want to tell the stories of my fellow students, of my faculty. Come on in, guys. Of the people who matter on campus. Again, that is no small accomplishment. That's 100 years of stories, 100 years of photos, 100 years of people complaining about parking, 100 years of questions as to why nobody goes to the football games. Yeah. And here's to 100 more of those, right? Right, guys? No, so it's no small accomplishment. Today we've got together a group of alumni, of folks who walked through the same halls as you all, got the experience, and went out and found jobs. Like they went out and did it. They went out and had successful careers, all from different disciplines of the newspaper, and that's a very exciting thing. First, quick thank yous. I have to thank the School of Journalism. None of them are here because they're all busy setting up and things. Katie Morse-Finch at the School of Journalism, Katie Foss, all the folks at the School of Journalism. Our graduate assistant, Dylan Simmons. Raise your hand, Dylan, who helped out a lot. Our editorial staff at Sidelines. Raise your hand. You guys helped out a lot promoting the event. Congratulations to you all. And Emily West, who couldn't be here, but I hope she watches the video. She helped book the panel, one of our adjuncts. So big thanks to her. All right, so let's do introductions. I'll go down the table. First up, we have Noah McLean. Raise your hand, Noah. Noah is our editor-in-chief of Sidelines. Over the summer, he interned at the Jackson Hole News and Guide. He interned in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, writing up to 4 stories a day, telling the stories of the people of Wyoming. A very exciting opportunity. This semester, he is interning at the Nashville scene, and he is the first of 2 100th anniversary year editors-in-chief of MTSU Sidelines. Let's give him a round of applause. Yeah. Next up, we have Sarah Grace Taylor. Sarah Grace, what year were you editor-in-chief? 2017, former editor-in-chief who left MTSU Sidelines, went and worked at the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, then went to the West Coast, worked at the Seattle Times, worked at Politico, and then came back home and is working for the nonprofit newsroom Nashville Banner, holding powerful people accountable, doing incredible work. So welcome, Miss Sarah Grace. Next up, we have Mr. George Walker. George Walker was here in the late 80s, early 90s, right? Correct? As working in the Sidelines. He's from the 1900s, guys. George is one of the best, if not the best, photojournalist in Tennessee. He is fantastic. I worked with him at the Tennessean. For those of you who know, that's where I came from. He grew up wanting to be a photographer for the Tennessean, and that's what he did for 20-some years, 20-plus years, 23 years. 30. I thought you said 23. Sorry. 30 years at the Tennessean. He shot the Tennessee Titans from its inception until today. He's still shooting the Titans. One time, I went on assignment with George to Louisiana, and I asked him who the most famous person he shot was, and he shot photography shot, and he started listing off presidents. So he's been to the multiple Olympics, multiple Super Bowls. He's gone and done it. He's done the thing. So welcome, George. And then we've got Mr. David Chamberlain, a 2019 graduate, a former sports editor at Sidelines who ended up in the music industry. He is media, I'm so sorry, David. Marketing and media relations, I should have written it down, for the Americana Music Association. For those who don't know, that's a trade group that represents Americana music. Blues, folk, traditional country, traditional rock and roll. They put on the Americana Fest in Nashville every year, a festival that draws thousands of people, which marquee event is the Americana Awards, which is an amazing event. Most people in the music industry consider it to be the event of the fall in downtown Nashville. It is a amazing show every year. I've been 5 or 6 times, and it is always a can't miss on the calendar. So David brings a little bit of PR experience to the panel today. Welcome, David. And then we've got another person from the 20th century, the 1900s, Mr. Eric Jackson, a new assistant professor here on campus. He joined us in the fall from Tennessee State, where he ran the graphic design program at Tennessee State. Joins us. He has a background in media design where he's worked for tons of clients around the mid-state area and beyond, including Metro Nashville Public Schools. And he's joining us here teaching, and he was a Sidelines page designer back in the day with newspapers in the mid-1990s. So welcome, Mr. Eric Jackson. And last, we have our moderator, Miss Brianna Sorrell, is our features editor at MTSU Sidelines, and she is going to hold the conversation for you guys today. So we'll hand the mic over.
Hi, everyone. Just like Matt said, I just want to welcome y'all here, and I am honored to be able to moderate on this panel full of generations of people who came and worked for Sidelines. So first question to get us started, I just want to know what drew you to Sidelines. Was it like a tabling or an event or a flyer on campus? What drew you to Sidelines?
Hello, can everyone hear me all right? Awesome. So my first experience was with Sidelines. I was in Andrew Ottman's media writing class. Kaylee Shore's then news editor, soon to be editor-in-chief at the time, came in with another editor and was talking about Sidelines. And one of the things she said was, you learn a lot in classes, but Sidelines, this is where you cut your teeth. This is where you actually learn how to conduct an interview, where you learn how to actually talk to people who are in power. You get the practice, and yeah, I took a little leap of faith, and here I am.
I actually reached out to Emily West, who Matt mentioned, and was editor at the time when I was a senior in high school, and she let me come and shadow some classes, and I had an assignment like my first day on campus, and then never left the sim.
This thing. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I joined Sidelines, I guess it was in the spring semester my freshman year. Had always known I wanted to be in photojournalism. I grew up around photojournalism. My father was a photographer and worked in photojournalism. I used to hang out at the Tennessean as a kid in the darkroom going, because he freelanced and worked, in journalism. So had been around there. So I knew that if I was going to, figure this out and learn how to do it, you got to go do it. So having a campus newspaper, that was the way to get started. So I went over to the James Union building, because that's where the Sidelines was at the time, and introduced myself and said, I want to work. And that's how we got started.
Is it on? Hello? Okay, yeah, there we go. A little better. So I toured here in 2015, and I met with Val Hopner. I don't know if anyone knows or met Val, but she was a big proponent in student media. She kind of pushed me hard to be involved in student media. I wanted to be a sports writer on first day coming to campus, and she suggested Sidelines. And yeah, joined my probably like first couple weeks in 2015, was part of the sports team, and then worked up to sports editor and was here all 4 years. But Val was kind of the one that pushed me to Sidelines after I told her sports media was what I wanted to do. So she was very motivating in that. So yeah, influential.
All right, so I would say outside of my reality, the 20-year-old version of myself who was just seeking like money for like pizza and other small items. I was a young, eager designer who was trying to get my hands on anything that I could design beyond just a standard student project. So I can say my professor was definitely an influence on me. His name was Professor Ali Fancher. That was in the Department of Art and Design in the College of Liberal Arts, was a big influence, and that really pushed me, just with working with him. There's some things that I remember that he still taught me even then, but he was a big influence for me to gravitate towards Sidelines at that time.
Okay, I love how everybody was pushed. Sometimes you need to be pushed. So I want to know what your experience was like working in Sidelines. Like, did you hold any positions or anything? What was your experience working in Sidelines during your time?
I'm still working for Sidelines, but my experience has been just amazing. I started as just a regular reporter in the news section. Eventually worked my way up to assistant news editor. Had a great editor that worked with me a lot. And then from there, editor in chief. But yeah, I don't know. What was the question again?
Like what's been your experience?
My experience has been amazing. I mean, Sidelines has taken me to places that I never thought I would go to. I mean, between SEJC trips, which is like Southeastern Journalism Conference, to the national conference in New York we went to in March. I mean, Sidelines was able to get me a job in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this summer. So it's really blessed me, I guess.
I started off just doing news reporting, and then I was news editor, which I think anybody who's done student media knows you were just doing more reporting but also editing. And then I was managing editor of print editions because we still had those, and then editor-in-chief. And my experience was basically we could do as much as we were willing to do, which at the time was a lot. So I spent probably too much time in the sim. Val used to joke that I majored in the student newspaper. But for someone who wanted to go into news, I had a rare opportunity to have like proof of concept that I could do the thing I wanted to do professionally. So I just felt like I was able to take advantage of that through Sidelines, and it's not every industry that you can do that kind of thing. And I would encourage anyone who's wanting to go into any kind of media to start producing things now, because it's the only way to get a job.
So what was the question again? It's like, what was our experience? I mean,
Yeah.
I had a wonderful experience. Of course, I got to see all parts of campus that you wouldn't normally see as a regular student. You know, you're on the sideline at football games. You're on the court for basketball games. You are at lectures like this, you know, with, you know, speakers who come from around the country. So it gave me a different sense of campus, you know, and the experience was wonderful. I started out just submitting art or submitting pictures before the photo editor then at the time would start, okay, you're good enough, here's an assignment for you to go shoot, you know, that kind of thing. So I worked as a staff, you know, worked as like quote unquote freelancer for a semester or two, and then proved myself, and then became a staff photographer for the campus newspaper, and then worked my way up to being the photo editor, you know, before I left and joined the Tennessean. But you know, this experience or being at the, you know, on the newspaper gave me the opportunity to see parts of campus that you'd get to meet you know, maybe the president of the university, or be around, you know, other parts that normal students don't get to do. So it's great.
I'm going to kind of second that because, like he said, with sports, that was my focus at the paper. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of late nights, especially for sports. But I would say it's very rewarding. My experience was very positive. Not so much that, but also just the people that you work with. That's going to be what you remember most. I graduated recently, but they're probably the people I keep in touch with the most, keep up with the most. It teaches you a lot about how to work as a team, work together. We had the great guidance of Mr. Leon Alligood when I was here, so he was very influential in our time. But my experience was very positive. I think, like I said, it's very rewarding. It's a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, you'll come away with a lot of different things that you can showcase to just future employers, which is a really big positive, and things that you really don't get in other mediums or facets that you wouldn't have if you weren't in student media. So I would say very positive.
My experience was great as well. Learning things such as like project management, file management. As I see the faces of some of my students, time management, file naming conventions, all of those things. Time, I always say, you know, time management is your friend. But not only that, but getting to actually work with the team, and in that sense, working with people who did what you did, but people who did not do what you did. So, kind of tying back to time management, as well as understanding the processes of other people, and of course, respecting their processes to say, I need to do what I need to do. It's not just about me, just being a student in my dorm, choosing to work on a project whenever I want to. It was about me then fitting within a system, and it gave me a different, totally different level of organization being at Sidelines.
Okay. I noticed most of you have the leadership experience or been in the editor role. So I want to know, looking back, like how did your experience influence your path after graduation in your career?
TK. I mean, again, going literally into news reporting after getting to do reporting with Sidelines is great. Being editor was great because it told me I don't want to be an editor for any reason. But also I like dabbled. Like in my time in Sidelines, I shot or photographed a March Madness tournament, and I wrote about concerts and did a bunch of stuff that is not what I do now also. So it was really helpful to kind of play the field in what kind of journalism I was interested in, and then write the kind of accountability stories that kind of led to what I do.
I guess working at Sidelines prepared me. You know, I was able to walk into the next thing. I was working at the Tennessee and working in the newspaper. That experience was invaluable. Sitting in the classroom and learning the theory and so forth is one thing, but actually doing is the other. So go do. Do or do not, right?
Completely agree. The hands-on experience is really like what's going to set you apart. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things, as he attested to, that like you can do in the classroom, but having the experience to go out and do it, it automatically puts something kind of on your resume that's going to set you apart that other people may not have if they're just going through a classroom. You actually get to go and be there, interview people, take photos, things that you can do to showcase to, like I said, just future employers that's going to help you and set you apart that other people may not have. And so that's a very invaluable thing, and I think everybody could take something away from that.
So for me, working at Sidelines doing page layout, one, it definitely pulled me out of my shell. It got me into page layout, working into things like Quark Express, PageMaker at that time, which went up to the late 1900s, of course. Uh, but, but with that aspect, it forced me to do things that I normally would not gravitate towards. Learning to do that and truly understanding that, it prepared me for a place that I didn't know that I was going to wind up as. At that time, I was basically being trained as a print graphic designer. I'd never thought that with understanding page layout, with things like gutters and columns and margins and bleeds, that led to helping me to understand how to design magazine layouts. That also led to helping me to understand how to design websites. Okay, so because of course in the late '90s, MTSU at that time was kind of up in the air. Like, is this web thing gonna last? I was in a few of the early classes, and of course, as always, as soon as I graduated, everything just happened. Of course, you guys didn't get to enjoy the wonderful barn. The art barn that we were in. Of course, right after I left, they tore it down and had the new building and all that stuff. But anyway, those things overlap into understanding as you develop websites. And even now, as I do things in Figma and teach Figma, they are all grid-based. So they're the exact same thing. If you can understand the page layout of a newspaper, you can understand a modular grid, a hierarchical grid for a website or a mobile app as well. They are the exact same thing.
Okay. And I love how, Sarah Grace, you mentioned like when you first started out, you were reporting on things that you realized you really didn't like. But I know there are a lot of juniors and seniors who are getting ready to graduate. They're getting ready to go into their first job or their first roles. And I want to know, what was your first job? And what is one thing that you feel like you did to make you stand out during the interview process for that?
My first job was while I was still a student. I took a job at a now defunct website that was the Spring Hill homepage, where we were, it was like a series of websites where each assistant or associate editor was basically reporting 3 stories a day and editing. not a good system. It didn't last. But I think the fact I had done sidelines, I had editing experience, I had met deadlines, cranked out a lot of stories in the last 4 years is why I was able to get that job. And I think anyone who has that experience, even if you're not directly going into journalism, you're like proving you can meet a deadline, you're showing some kind of professional responsibility that just having a college degree doesn't necessarily convey. So that kind of helps stand out.
So my experience when I started my first job was probably a little different, because I had worked at Sidelines, of course, and I had interned at the newspaper. So my first job was at the newspaper, and I was still here, a student on campus, and I had been interned at one point, and then was still freelancing, because there's a lot of work to be done for the newspaper in the Murfreesboro area as it was growing and continues to grow. And so I was calling every day to the newspaper, the Tennessean, not while taking classes and working the sideline or whatever. I'd call and say, "Hey, Sam Parrish, who was one of the assignment editors at the time." I'd say, "Hey, what you doing tomorrow? You got anything for me?" "No, George, I don't have anything for you." Tomorrow, the next day, "Hey, Sam, you got anything for me?" "No, George, I don't have anything for you." And then maybe one day, boom, I'd get an assignment. I'd shoot it, and I'd do as best I can at it. I would produce, the best work that I could at the time. And then and then as I continued to do that while working at Sidelines, while taking classes, while waiting tables, while doing whatever else, a position opened up at the Tennessean. And I got a call and says, "George, hey, can you come down here? We need to interview you." My interview with the editor-in-chief was, "Okay, can you start next week?" That was my interview. So what did I do? I prepared myself. I was there. I was ready, and that's what you need to do. Be ready, because you don't know when the call will come.
So my first job is my current job. I'm kind of more recently graduated, but I think one of the big things, and this applies for Sidelines, but also just all student media. One thing that I tried to really focus on, or is a variety of things. I think student media just in general is a great aspect that MTSU offers. I did radio, photography, writing. I did the TV, news, broadcast. I tried to really kind of have like a broad canvas so that way I could really showcase like a multitude of works. Hence why I was the sports editor, ended up in music. But yeah, I think mine was a little difficult because I graduated right before COVID, so that was not a fun time. But I think specifically with Sidelines, like right now, I do like a lot of press releases. I do our weekly newsletter. So Sidelines and just writing in general really helped kind of having that showcase, having the ability to really show them my writing style, what I could do, and just look, I've not only done writing, but I've done a multitude of things. So I think I can adapt to the music industry and the music side just as well as I did with the sports.
So my first job, beyond MTSU and Sidelines, I was an in-house designer for a small company called Mass Media. Being an in-house designer can be rigorous at certain times, basically because when you're an in-house designer, you design everything. You don't just specialize in an area. With that being said, it definitely there's some challenges. There's some challenges, but it helps in that particular sense. My mentor, who owned that company, was a gentleman by the name of John Gurton, who I'm still friends with to this day. And kind of jumping a little ahead of that, I think one of the things that stood out about me is my willingness to learn and listen and take in information. Instant gratification is not always the best option. You know, there's value in experience, whether it's paid, not as paid as much. And one of the things that he always told me is the fact that a check will get you to the first of the month, but a relationship will take you through a lifetime. There are people that I met even then that still call me because of the relationship that I built and the things that we worked on together in that sense. But to take that time, listen, learn, slow roasted is still better than microwave, as I always say. Everything is not going to come to you quickly. That will come. But as George mentioned as well, the only thing worse than an opportunity not coming is an opportunity to come and you not be ready for it. That's even worse because it's like now it's in front of me, but I'm not ready because I didn't take that time. Taking that information, enjoy your time in college. You only get to do it once. You can come back again, but you can only come to college for the first time once. Enjoy this time taking the information. I'll stop right there. I feel like I'm babbling.
Oh, that was that was really, really, really good. I want to switch the conversation to talk more about just the culture of student media as you all worked in it. I want to know what about the culture of student media stuck out to you and what was important to you.
So a few things I guess stuck out about the culture. The culture is what got me into Sidelines in the first place. The editor team was just so friendly. Always made an effort, a genuine effort, to just ask me how I was doing, how my stories were going. I was lucky enough to be one of Leon's last classes of students, and I mean, he was so supportive. Like I was just this kid who had no writing experience, and Leon was like, you can do this, Noah. Like if you want to do this, you can do this. And that was amazing. I will say the culture is also, it's tight knit. We work really well together. You get to know your fellow reporters because I don't know. I went to a vigil last night with our news reporter, and it was intense. But I think just being there together made our friendship better and our professional relationship better.
I think part of why the student media and Sidelines have such a good culture is because it's voluntary. Like y'all are not getting paid a lot of money to do that. You're putting a lot of work into doing that. You're kind of putting yourself out there in a way that's unfamiliar at the age that you are. So everyone in the room is like coming from the same place for the most part of wanting to do the work that they're doing. And like a thing that always sticks out to me, we had like a really hard news semester this spring of my junior year, and this was during the Forest Hall stuff, which we talked about earlier. And we'd put together a whole print edition. We had a monthly edition back then. It was like housing themed, and we were done, and we were about to go on spring break, and then we heard that the task force was gonna vote on Forest Hall when we got back. And we're like, oh no, if we were gonna do these like 6 stories we had on the burner to do eventually, we had to do them right now before they voted. And so I sent some message in our group chat like, hey, who wants to throw out the thing we already did and work all over spring break? And we had like 9 people say yes and stay, and we like put together this edition. We tortured Leon with it, and he edited it last minute. And it was like one of the things we were proudest of that we had done, but it was also like the showing of people who really cared about what we were doing. And I think journalism ends up being like that, and probably whatever you end up doing with your life, if it's what you choose to do with your life, is gonna feel like that. So working with people who are more or less volunteering to put that kind of time in is really special.
What were we asking? What was the question?
I wanted just to know what about like the culture of student media kind of stood out to you, or you know, what's your thoughts and opinions on it,
Of
and what
course,
was important.
It's obviously the camaraderie. You know, we all were in this together. We were, you know, in the in the trenches, covering the news of the campus. You know, so we worked late nights. You know, in the in the James Union building, you're trying to meet this deadline, trying to get the paper out to the printer. You know, because we actually had paper. And it had to be on, you know, we wanted it to be on the street, you know, available for the students, you know, what, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think it was. Is that right? Yeah. So, you know, twice a week, you know, and I would be in the dark room late at night, and our fellow photographers would all be there working together. So we, you know, we built the friendships, we built the camaraderie, we enjoyed what we did because we loved it, and we all so love it.
I'm going to kind of echo everybody here. I think it is the team culture. It's the team aspect of working with people. I was joking with some of the current staff and writers now. the people that you work with at Sidelines, you're all working towards the same goal, and those are the people you're going to remember because you guys are all in it together. I'm sure there's a lot of classes that you guys have, and you recognize a lot of the people because they're applying themselves, and those are the people that you work with on a daily basis. And then there's a handful where it's like, I've never seen you before. Like, how are, but those people that you work with on a daily basis that you get to know, those are the relationships that you build. Those are the ones that you cultivate and the ones that you're going to remember the most because, as they all said, like, you're working late nights, you're putting in a lot of hours together for not a lot of money, if none at all. So yeah, and those are the ones, like, even now that I still keep in touch with the most are the people that I worked with at Sidelines, and we were in the trenches together. So those are the ones that you're going to remember and that will carry you past just your time in college.
I think for me, in addition to the camaraderie, it was more so of just having that kind of a for us, by us type of mentality. This was being done for students, by students. And the integrity of, even though we were being guided along, the integrity of being able to say, what do you guys think? It was a different type of freedom in such a way, and it gave us a voice to say, not only to do this story and how someone wants me to do it, but to do it from my vantage point, sometimes even as a student, even with showing a graphic in such a way. And likewise, the challenge of, likewise with being printed, of course, this is not going to have any motion, may or may not, probably not much color, if at all, be on the front page. How do I make this interesting? As a designer, to take these few elements, this combination of word and image, and make it interesting. What's going to make people stop and actually read this and hope lead to conversations and other things? So to do that together as students, and like I say, that bond of, as we were all trying to grow in our different little areas with graphic design, photography, journalism, whatever the case may be. And like I say, to do that as students, that was definitely helpful from a camaraderie standpoint.
I love how you all say we're in the trenches together. So for current Sideline staff who are in the trenches together, what advice would you give to us about making the most of our time here in the trenches together?
Well, I'm graduating this December. MTSU is actually my second go at college. Fun fact. So I would say, go Mox, yes. Was it to make the most of it while you're here? Things to do: get involved. Getting involved is like the most important thing you can do in college. It doesn't matter what you get involved in. It can be the skateboarding club. It can be whatever. Just get involved. Meet people who think similarly to you. Also, get out of your comfort zone. Talk to people who maybe you, on the surface, don't think you would agree with. Some of my best conversations that I've had have been with people who are, quote unquote, on the opposite side of the ideological spectrum. So yeah, just be open-minded and be willing to try new things. That's my advice.
I think similarly, I would just say try a bunch of stuff. Like, you don't know what you want to do until you've done it. And you don't know what you don't want to do until you've done it and didn't like it. But also, you're never going to have the energy and the editorial independence and kind of like a safe place to land if you make a mistake that you have if you're in student media. So take big swings, do stories that intimidate you. Even if you don't go into journalism, I think that ability to make scary phone calls and do things that are intimidating publicly is good for you and will help you long term in your career. And then also just don't squander a moment that you're in college, because there's never a time where you are just like given free reign to try to grow as much as you can again.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail. This is the place to do it. Get involved, get out there, meet somebody across a different spectrum, different ideology of yours or wherever else. I mean, they've said it already. I'm saying it again, and I'm sure they'll say something similar. So, think with your feet, move yourself, go out there and experience it, enjoy.
I was gonna say one more. You said advice to help make it through the trenches. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
in the
Advice.
trenches together.
I mean, I think that's really just kind of it. Is like remind yourself that you guys are in this together. It's all one team. You're all producing content together. You're all helping each other. Build a portfolio, build something that you can show and you can showcase and be proud of. I think that's one of the things is like one of the things I look back on for my time at Sidelines is like I'm proud of the work that I did because I had a great team, and it's rewarding. You get to put your name on something and put your stamp, put your own creativity, your own spin on something, but so is everybody else. And that's a good reminder to kind of know that you're not going at it alone and everybody else is kind of here for the same purpose and the same goal, and you're all working together towards it. And I know it can be stressful going to classes and also doing extracurricular activities, but it's definitely rewarding and worth the time if you apply yourself and just, like I said, that kind of cohesive unit of working together.
Definitely enjoy this time of exploration. As mentioned before, failure is a part of success. It's only a failure if you don't learn anything from it. And that's, the thing that you should get from that. What did I get from that particular situation? So, definitely enjoy that. Take the time to explore, get outside of your box, do something that you normally would not do. One of my personal mantras in life is to constantly, I tell myself, enjoy the season that I'm in. We tend to not appreciate a season until it's gone. When we're in middle school, we can't wait to get to high school. When we're in high school, we can't wait to get to college. When we're in college, I'm tired of eating this pizza. I'm ready to get out and get, my own place, this, that, and the other. Let me tell you something. There are these little rectangular things that keep coming to your mailbox. They're called bills, okay? Why you don't have those? That's gonna come. I say that to say this. Those things are gonna come. Don't get to the point to now you're out there, you're paying bills, you're doing these things, and you're looking back at college, and you're like, man, all I had to do is just walk to the student center and just get something to eat and just do my homework and enjoy that time while you are here. When the season is over, it is over. Enjoy the season. Enjoy the season that you are in while you are in it.
Love that. So as we are celebrating 100 years of Sidelines, I wanted to know what or how do you see the role of student media continuing to evolve in the next 100 years? Like, what are your hopes for the next 100 of editors, reporters, graphic designers who come through Sidelines? How do you see it evolve?
I mean, they've made old people jokes about print going away and dark rooms and things. When I was in college, it was like you have to learn how to do these 3-minute feature videos because totally newspapers are going to put those at the top of every story, and download Periscope and Snapchat because that's how we're going to do it, which have gone by the wayside. Before we came in here, I was talking to your staff about AI and like, what does that look like? And we're constantly talking about that at work right now. How can you use AI to work? So like mediums are always going to change that you're working on, and I don't think in the next 100 years it's going to go any slower than it did the last 100 years. So I expect student media to have to like be kind of a breeding ground for how we address things like AI, because y'all are talking about it a lot younger and will be a lot better about it than I ever will be. But I also just expect student media to stay the same in a lot of ways, which is hopefully Sidelines stays independent and will hold the university accountable, especially in weird times like right now when the university is making big changes because they're getting other pressures. Hopefully student media will stay robust. Like it's always, it ebbs and flows with people, but you guys should care enough to go recruit, indoctrinate people into it. And then I think it should stay fun. Like you guys have to know, again, you're never gonna be students writing for students without a lot of oversight again. So go crazy.
All right, I'm ready. I think the future of student media, to kind of touch on what Sarah said about AI, I think that's going to be huge aspect, using it in the newsroom, weighing ethical ways to use it in the newsroom. I I really hope student media becomes, I don't know if more democratized would be the right word, but I want it to become more open to not just journalism students. Sidelines, I think, has done a really good job of. We have pre-law majors, we've had Spanish majors, like just in the last couple of years. So I would love to see more people from outside of the College of Journalism coming into student media roles, because there's a spot for them. There's a spot for everyone.
So where's student media in 100 years? I don't know. I mean, it's because what do we, it's up to the students. It's up to you. It's for you to decide where it goes, what it goes, how it goes, um, what technologies we implement, whatever those might be in 100 years or less, or however. It also depends on um, our climate, what's going on in the world. We see what happens. We're watching and seeing what's happening going on outside. So that will also affect what's happening here in student media and how we all respond to that. So it's up to us to figure out what it is we want to do, how we want to treat the First Amendment, and will the First Amendment be around? So let's make some decisions and make the right ones, right?
So I think how it's going to evolve, I think one thing is we all have, you all have an amazing opportunity to apply yourself with student media. And as they've kind of touched on with AI, I saw something the other day that I thought was very powerful, in the sense that, I'm sure everyone is kind of aware of ChatGPT and all the things that lie ahead with AI. But the one thing that AI doesn't have is perspective. And everyone in this room has perspective. Everyone in this room has a voice. And I think that's one thing with writing that you can do and you can apply, is because it's your own voice and you have the opportunity to say what you want, stand by your beliefs, and that's something that I think AI is incapable of, but everyone in here is. And so I think as long as you all stand firm in what you believe in and put, I was going to say pen to paper, but I guess words to the screen, then I think student media will be around for another 100 years.
Of course, I have no idea where it would be, but I would say with being the current students, make sure in some form or fashion you're fighting to keep it relevant. Show why you should be here. I think it's totally awesome as I go up my Instagram feed to see CNN and Fox, and then there's like, bam, there's Sidelines. And the fact of, as we were writing things, like now, just the other day, I saw someone actually giving a report, and blending in with the other facets of the news media. So I would say from that instance to say, don't even just come in and just do according to what was already happening. What's the next level? To say, yeah, we're still doing Sidelines. Maybe 10 years from now, we're doing Sidelines, and it's also published in 15 different languages. Who knows? But to say, who is our audience? Who are we reaching? And to take a deeper dive, not just in the sense of putting news out there, but specifically understanding your audience or creating even a new audience. When you do things like that, that makes you what's called a trendsetter. When you're doing something and you are that trendsetter, people will definitely follow suit. I think that is a great way to keep yourselves around and keep yourselves relevant.
I wanted to add one more thing real quick. I think the work is going to stay the same as far as what we are doing in student media, holding people accountable, interviewing people, talking to people, building relationships. Just the way we do it is going to change. But yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we do have some time to open up to the audience. If anyone want to ask a question for our panel to answer.
I'm not going to say what the most fulfilling story I've ever done is because I don't know. I can tell you one that I did for Sidelines that kind of became my why, though. It was the second semester of my freshman year, and people on campus were like consistently griping that there were these expired Gatorades in all the vending machines. And then we like went, not Corlew, what's the building next to Corlew? Cummings. Yeah, we went to Cummings, and there had been like a 3-year past expiration date Gatorade with mold in it that someone found. And sure enough, we went and found the same thing. And I worked with some of the TV guys. We took a video of getting one. It was very dramatic. And then, like on that story, I got a lot of hard skills out of it. Like I filed my first records request because we looked at the procurement contracts with Pepsi and the Aramark and the campus. And we like did this whole thing, and the campus had to respond, and Pepsi came and they cleared out all the machines because they hadn't been like doing first in, first out. And my friends were like Snapchatting me Pepsi trucks on campus, which I was really proud of. And then the university put a little sticker on all the machines that hopefully is still there that says like, call this number if you have an issue with procurement, and you could get a refund and they'd fix it. And it was like silly. We're talking about Gatorade. But it was the first like accountability story I think I had ever done. I was like 18. And I was like, oh, okay, this is my shit, and I'm going to do this until I die. And I still feel like that.
I don't know. I think of the most important stories that I've done over my career. I think some of the things that I've done related to civil rights, in telling the history and stories of those. I remember like one of the first ventures I did was I think around the 30th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act in about 94, 95, somewhere in there, and went to Birmingham, and I actually opened my eyes to a lot of things that I had missed as a child or growing up, and then later telling more stories about from other folks and other perspectives of like people who were unsung in the civil rights era, and then later about the time Obama was inaugurated for the second time, I guess it was, got to meet some of those civil rights heroes and sit down and hear their stories and what they what they went through, how they experienced life and so forth. And I sat down with the great John Lewis in his office, and photographed him and met with him and talked with him and spending, a great deal of time. That was a project I worked on with a team of writers at the Tennessean, and we call it Because of You, because John Lewis at one point, I think it was after the first inauguration, had written on a napkin and gave it to Obama, or Obama wrote on a napkin and gave to John Lewis, and he said, "Because of you, I was able to become president." And so that was the genesis of that story and how we started working on that. But to be in the presence of those people, and be able to tell their stories or be a part of those stories was immensely important. And that's part of the why, in telling those stories. And like I think of another story prior to that one was like a kid, a man named Errol Groves. He was like one of the first children to integrate schools in Nashville. And so we found the picture of him going into the school for the first time and walking in, and then to find he and his mother, they were still alive, and talk to them about their story and their experience in doing that. And it was just, and to be able to make, the pictures to go with those stories and to hear their stories and to understand their stories, it was pretty moving for me. And then there's tons of other things that I've covered as well. But those are some of the reasons, and that's kind of the why. That's because everybody has something to tell, and I'd like to be able to tell it. So, making good trouble, exactly.
So for me, I cannot remember the most interesting thing that I look back on most things that I design. It's like, what was I thinking, And design for me marks time. I can literally look at certain things from years ago and remember what I was doing, how I was feeling, where I sat or worked on, sometimes even the music that I was listening to when I designed that. A huge part of my why, I can say, ties back to me as a 10th grader, going through that, the trials and stresses of high school. Of course, we've all endured that. It was a trying time for me, 10th grade, and my uncle introduced me to art. That was a way to channel my energy, my anger, all these things I had pent up. we would sit and we would draw, and he exposed me to what he referred to as commercial art. I'd never heard of a graphic designer. I knew it's what I wanted to do. So when people would ask that age-old question, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I would say, the people that do, you know, I'd never heard the term of graphic designer literally until my senior year, yet it was in me. I started to also take classes at Memphis College of Art, even in high school. So, but my uncle being there at that time to introduce me to art, that is a huge part of my why. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2008. So I wish he could be here right now to even see how far that I've gone with it. But with that, in that particular instance, it definitely changed my life. And even as my older brother says to me to this day, you're one of the few people on this earth that I know that you're doing and you've only done exactly what you went to school for. Most people go to school for one thing and they do something else. My brother went to school for accounting. He worked for the corporate office of FedEx, and he's a pastor. So he's like, you're one of the few people that I know. You did this in high school. You went to school for this. I have a degree in graphic design. I have a degree in media design, and so on and so forth. And it's all I've done, and everything that I've ever done in some type of way revolved around graphic design. But I think about my uncle being there in that certain place at that certain time to guide me to this phase of my life.
Okay.
From the 1900s, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Right, right. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I'd say gosh, you want to talk about on the job training. Really that to just know the different markets that you're hitting at that point, even all the way down to the editing, the spacing. When I think of having a job doing pre-press, where I had to literally view things before they went to press and say, hey, I can't see across this room with my glasses off, but I can see there's an additional space between these letters that should not be there. And I catch things like that all the time. I think it would definitely heighten the level of focus and the integrity that would go into it, knowing everybody is going to, be watching this. So it's a different type of spotlight. I think that changes things in the sense of just like I know definitely, of course, when I was here at MTSU in the late 90s, it was the Department of Mass Comm. Now, of course, media and entertainment. But the fact of I had friends that I met from different countries that came from all over just to go to MTSU to be a part of that then Mass Comm program. Imagine this yet again continuing to be that from the aspect of journalism. I know it already is in such a way. But to say if you want to find your journalists and your photographers and sports media people, this is the place to go. This is the top place to go. So to think even our outlook and how we compare to other universities in Tennessee, and in the region, I think that would truly heighten everything. Yeah. Two, I would say let's not wait. Let's act like that's already the case, and then just grow into that. Yeah.
I would add on to that a little bit. I think it already is the case. I think it was the case as soon as we got an .com for MTSU Sidelines. As far as the responsibility of the reporters, I don't know how much it would change, considering like we can have a worldwide audience. I mean, we can have a worldwide audience now. You can download software that translates anything on your screen. So I think that we're doing good reporting to our audience, which is the MTSU community, while also Like I don't think we are reporting in a way so we're like, okay, this is for our readers in Jamaica or for our readers in like, but it's available, and yeah, I think that we know that, our writers know that, and yeah, when you're producing content, I think there's an understanding that yes, this is going out to the audience, but it's the world. The world can see it. It's on the internet and it's permanent.
I just want to add that I think whatever you put out in the world, whether you're doing music or journalism or whatever, if you're going to create something, you should not be surprised if a historian sees it in 100 years, and you should hope that more people see it. And I think specifically in journalism, it's our responsibility to, I mean, the old adage is that a newspaper is the first rough draft of history. I do stuff all the time where I have to go back and look at old newspapers. Literally, I was reading one of Leon's stories recently for something I'm working on microfilm. So, like, yes, it's more accessible now, but I think the, like, standard should be, I want as many people to see this as possible because I'm proud of the thing that I'm doing. And I think especially right now in, like, the media climate and the fact that my generation and your generation don't read the news very deliberately the way that generations before us have, you should want that. You should want more people to see it. You should make it as accessible as possible, and you should think, hopefully, this is the first rough draft that people will go back and look at.
Any more questions out there?
I'll answer Gary's question from earlier. I don't know that I've had a most impactful story. I helped get a dog adopted this summer, and so that's probably the high point of my career so far. What was your why, right? Yeah. It's hard to articulate, I guess. I'm obsessed with information. I think that I was really misinformed when I was growing up. I think that had a big role to play in that. So just learning more is like, I don't know, it's like breathing.
I'll add in on that too. So I think for me, it was just being able to connect with people. I like more of the interview side of journaling. I'm very nosy, but it's all with good intent though, because I do like knowing more about people's stories. I believe everybody has a story. Everybody, like one of the panelists mentioned, has a perspective, and I think that's important. And that's also what kind of drew me in more in how do we hear these voices. And I think that also adds into student media because we are somewhat of the voices on campus. A lot of people are coming to us. They're looking for sidelines now. Hey, is sidelines doing this? Do you guys know about this? So I think that also along with getting to know stories, we're also representing students, and we're also being that voice to them. Like you mentioned, being able to hold university officials accountable, breaking those stories first before even any other major news companies are breaking them. We are pretty much the ones doing it. So I think that my why personally was for one, connecting with people and getting to know perspectives and getting to know other stories, but as well as just being that representative and being that voice for others. So, all right. Are we wrapping up? Okay. Well, we are wrapping up here. I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming here today, taking the time out to talk with us students and share your experience in Sidelines. And hopefully in 100 years from now, we'll be able to know that we have been a part of the change and a part of this great student media that has been making changes on campus. And yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you. Also thanking you guys for coming out as well, taking the time out to hear everyone. So thank you all, and feel free to come talk to them after.
And a big thank you to Bree for moderating. You did an amazing job.